So the children's game Snakes and Ladders came from an ancient Indian game of spiritual and moral education and personal evolution called Gyan Chaupar. Also went by other names such as Leela and Moksha Patam and Gyan. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to play the ancient version of the game Snakes and Ladders as a spiritual and moral game. So in this video, I'm going to use the modern design of the Gyan Chaupar board that my wife and I designed, but the rules that I'm going to explain broadly could apply to any design of Gyan Chaupar or Moksha Patam or Leela, and they are somewhat open to interpretation. It's an ancient game. There's no hard set exact way of playing it, but there are some general principles that apply. And so if you want to flex them to make the game work better for you, my advice is do that. Don't become dogmatic about the rules of the game, because this game is about learning and inner inquiry. It's not about winning and getting to the top. Okay, so let's dive in and I'll explain how we play. So in our version of Gyan Chaupar, we have the mandala of unity at the top of the board. And something equivalent to this is often there in the boards. It may not be in your version, depending on which version you're playing, in which case you may just start at the bottom of the board on tile number 1. But if you do have a starting place at the top of the board, in this case, the mandala of unity, you start by placing your player pieces there, and then on each turn, a player will roll a dice, and they need to roll a 3 or a 6 in order to enter the game, in order to leave the heavens and enter the earthly life. Now, some people play this with just rolling a 6, and some people might not play this rule at all. They might just go straight into the game. But by having a requirement to roll a 3 or a 6 to get into the game, it actually is very interesting how some people will get there very quickly. Some people might sit up there for a long time and feel like they're not entering the board. And this itself is an interesting point of self-inquiry, because why is it that we're in such a hurry? Why is it that we feel uncomfortable just sitting there in the heavens at the top of the board? What is it that we're so desperate to get into? Are we feeling like we're being left behind? Are we feeling like we're missing out? What is it that we're feeling? So each go of Gyan Chaupar is an opportunity for self-inquiry, for reflection, and for sharing that reflection with the group. And so even before you've entered the actual main grid of the board, you can learn a lot just by reflecting on what you're feeling sitting in the heavens, the mandala of unity. So let's assume that you've rolled a 3 or a 6. You've now moved through the portal down the board and been birthed into tile number 1. And tile number 1 is the symbol of birth. And so what we do on each go is we take that time to reflect on, what does this mean to me? What does it mean in my life? Why have I landed on it? What can I learn from it? And there is no right answer. It's about what comes to you, what resonates with you, what are you feeling is important. And that's what you're there to share. Others in the group should be respectful, that they're there to listen. They're not there to offer you advice or tell you their opinion or tell you what you should think about this aspect of the board or share their knowledge of what it means. That may be something that you want, but it should be invited rather than imposed. So you start tile number 1 in birth. So everybody has that in common, that you start at birth and you end at the top of the board at enlightenment. And then each go, just like in Snakes and Ladders, the children's game, you roll the dice and you count the number of places through the board corresponding to the roll of the dice. And then on that go, you reflect on the tile that you landed on. So where we have a few interesting things to note about this are, of course, the snakes and the ladders. So if you land on the base of a ladder, then this is a tile that will elevate you, that will carry you up the board in an accelerated path. And so what you do here is you spend the go where you landed at the base of the ladder to reflect on the aspect of life represented by that tile at the base. And then on your subsequent go, once you've been round the other players, on your subsequent go, instead of rolling the dice, you move up the ladder and you reflect on the tile at the top of the ladder. Similarly, if you land on the head of a snake, on the go that you land on the head of the snake, you would reflect on the tile at the head of the snake where you've landed, what that means to you. And then on your subsequent go, instead of rolling the dice, you would slide down the snake to the tile at the bottom, and you would use that go to reflect on what that tile means to you. The other thing to note, which is in our version of the board, but it's not in all versions of the board, is that we have the chakras running up the center of the board, starting at the root chakra and then going all the way to the top center of the board at the crown chakra. In our version, if you are sitting on one of these and then on your subsequent go, you roll a 6, then instead of moving 6 places horizontally along the board, what you would do is you would actually transcend that chakra and move directly up 1 place to the next chakra up. So you skip a whole row and go straight up. Then the question is, how do you win the game? And the interesting thing about Gyan Chaupar or Moksha Patam is really you don't ever win it, because the point is not to beat other people. The point is to evolve yourself. The point is for you to learn and grow as a human being. So the place where you technically complete the game, you don't win the game, but you complete the game by reaching enlightenment. And to reach enlightenment, you have to roll the exact number on the dice required to get to enlightenment. So for example, you might be on the tile alchemy, which is 4 places away from enlightenment. And in order to get to enlightenment and complete the game, you'd have to roll a 3 to move the remaining 3 places. But if I was in this position and I rolled a number greater than 3, what would happen is I would actually then count back the number of additional places. So I effectively bounce off the top and move back again. So it can be quite hard to get to enlightenment. And there's jeopardy along the way, because just below enlightenment we have ego, which is the head of a snake, which again brings you down. So if you overshoot by just 1, then you actually can fall quite a long way. There's great jeopardy right at the gateway to enlightenment. But let's say that you did roll the exact number, you landed enlightenment, you complete the game, and you then move back up into the heavens, into the mandala of unity. And at this point, you have a choice, because you could then just stay there and take that as completion of the game, or you could play what I call infinite play, where the game never really ends because we're in the wheel of samsara, the wheel of reincarnation. While your friends are perhaps still somewhere else on the board on their journey, you could continue to then play the game by trying to roll a 3 or a 6 to be birthed again into the bottom of the game and start a new life, a new journey through the board to continue your learning. So this is a really beautiful way to play, because that way you take out this idea that there's a finite end, and actually it becomes just an ongoing journey of learning and self-discovery. You could also play this game on your own as an individual meditation practice. And in this sense, what you would do is basically decide a time that you want to play this game. Maybe you play it every day in the morning or in the evening before you go to bed. You could combine it with a meditation or a journaling practice, whatever works for you. And it works very much in a similar way to pulling a tarot card or something like that, that you trust the wisdom of the dice, that there is some sort of mysterious wisdom in the dice, that it will give you what you need. And this is true whether you're playing as a group or you're playing individually. In terms of how many people can play the game, there really is no limit. My advice is to have a group that feels safe, that feels tight. I think it's more important that you have the right people than that you have the right number of people. So you, as I said, you could play with just 1 person, or you could play with 2 people, you could play with 4 people or 6 people. But I think it's important that the group has psychological safety with the other people that they're playing with, so that you feel like you can be really honest, that you can really share what comes up for you. So choosing the right people is really important. The other thing about the number of people is the time. The time that we take to reflect on things affects the time that the game takes to play. So it can take a long time to play, and if you have a very large group, then obviously that is amplified by the number of people. So in that sense, there probably is a sensible limit to how many people play the game. I would say probably maximum 6 people 4 is a good number. And you also want to just be respectful of each other's time. So when you are reflecting, just be mindful that other people also need time. In terms of how do you select your player pieces, my advice is to use any small object that's distinctive, just like in any board game, that you have a player piece that you know is yours, that's distinctive to you, but try to find something that actually means something to you. Maybe it's something of yours that you have some sort of personal connection with, that has a distinct meaning for you, or you find an object that maybe symbolically represents something that you feel is important and you would like to represent you in the game. Failing that, you can use just any simple household object. You could use a paperclip or a coin, or even like a washer or a screw. It doesn't really matter. So the only other thing to say really is take your time, don't rush. It's not a race game like the children's game of Snakes and Ladders. It is a game of reflection. Take your time, don't feel in a hurry to get to the top. If you play for an hour with friends and you find that you're still on the first row, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you've got out of it, what you've learned, what insights you've gained about yourself and about life and about each other. If you want to come back to the game, you can play this over a period of time. You don't have to play it in one sitting as a group. So if you think you might be able to come back together as a group of friends and play on an ongoing basis, then make a note of where each person was at the end of the game, or take a photograph of the board with your player pieces in position. And then next time you can continue from where you set off. So that's how you play Gyan Chaupar. Like I said, they're guidelines, not hard rules, so don't feel limited by it. If you've got an idea that you feel will help you and your group get more out of it, or you individually in your reflection practice get more out of it, then do that. Feel empowered to do whatever works for you. Hopefully, it'll be something that you'll get a lot out of and will help you in your life and your personal evolution. So if you want to know more about our version of the game, you can find the details at gyanchaupar.co.uk. I'll put a link in the description. And like I said, there are lots of ancient versions. Different communities had their own versions, or maybe you want to create your own. Whatever works for you, find a way of getting access to a copy of a Gyan Chaupar or Moksha Patam board and enjoy it.